Okay, if you do not have a stronghold thought, a good stronghold thought, I'm not going to say just a stronghold thought. Let's say if you do not have a good stronghold thought, I'm going to encourage you today to get one good stronghold thought that you can get a hold of, that you can just, when the enemy comes and wants to tell you, the other thoughts, God is good all the time. Whatever it is. All right. And this isn't real long. I've had a hard week, but I'm going to say the woman that reached out and touched Jesus so she would be healed from her issue of blood, she thought, Jesus can help me if I only just touch him. Then she had that thought first.
Right.
It convinced her. That thought convinced her that was true. And then she went and acted on that thought. And she was healed. Okay. Does anybody here, can anybody think of another example or some examples, the Bible personally or whatever, where somebody got a hold of a thought and then acted on that thought, good or bad?
In my life, I always thought that I couldn't speak. I couldn't communicate with other people. And I always knew I needed to give my testimony in front of people, but I always thought that I couldn't do it. And when I began to understand my identity and who I was, I realized that I could do it. And so I took the step of faith. I thought about it, took the step of faith, stood up, did it. And it was one of the best things I've ever done.
And it was absolutely one of the best testimonies I've heard.
It's very good.
Yeah. It was. So, that is that's her personal, and you got I think from that, you got a stronghold thought from that process. That you are an overcomer. That you can do that. So, all right. Anybody else? Think of somebody off the top of their head.
I have a family thing now, right now, since my family's dysfunctional. When my father died, I'm the only one that saw him before he died. And I encouraged my sister to go see him. And she wouldn't accept that he wanted to see her, but he did. I said, I'll see her, but she'll come. But she refused. She would not budge. So he died. And the funeral came, and she was convinced he didn't die. He faked his death. I said, he's faking his death. I don't know why she had this thought. I really don't.
Right.
And I thought, he's not faking his death. He died. And if you really, really don't believe me, let's go up by the casket.
Yeah.
And I'll ask him to open it, because it was a closed casket. Just so you'll know, he died. But she refused to even listen to me. She was convinced that he never died. And I'm like, why are you even thinking he never died? I can never figure out why.
I can tell you why.
Huh?
I can tell you why.
Was it
She
denial?
she didn't go see him when she could have.
And that was a guilt
And
thing?
so telling herself that he didn't die will tell herself that she'll have a chance to rectify that.
Yeah,
A guilt thing?
It was a family conflict thing, and I was like, no, he's gone. And he's in that casket. But it was just another one of the family conflicts that came up, and it was awkward. It was like, he's gone. Maybe in her heart she had a huge, and I believe in her heart there's still today a massive void.
Yeah.
That was really
Something she didn't deal with, right.
Within her, there's a massive void. And she may not even understand it.
Oh,
I think it's always there.
Right. And I think one of the people that maybe even personifies this two voices is Solomon. He had wisdom. He had a lot of things going for him. But on the other hand, who is he listening to on this hand? He was listening to all them wives. You know?
He had more than one thought.
Yeah, he had more than one thought
Oh my
about
goodness.
bombarding,
About 900 of them.
bombardment by the thoughts.
Right?
Yep. So instead of, making
Did you get for
himself,
thinking?
instead of making himself and standing on a stronghold thought, he kind of wavered in that
I don't think he
area.
was in the house very much. I think Solomon was in his own palace, and he closed the door and said, "I'm going to be alone." First,
But whatever it takes to shut these women up, I think that was probably his thought.
He stayed in his own palace. I need it quiet.
Says he allowed a bunch of things that he knew better.
He didn't have much a
He
long
knew it
time.
better. So,
Can't imagine.
Also, I had on
Okay.
where you said how to recognize the voice of God. Sherri said something once that helped me a lot. Is the fact that when you're really not sure if it's God, whether it lines up with His word, because the enemy's he's slick. If you'll take the flavor of the voices and compare it to what He's told you before when you knew it was Him,
mhm.
sometimes that helps.
I think that's where that the goodness, knowing the goodness and the kindness and the nature,
Yeah.
then
You'll
it gives
compare
us
it
that.
when
Yeah,
you knew it was Him.
right, right.
Well, just a couple of days ago, Lord gave me something about not just races,
Mhm.
but people.
Mhm.
Just yik-yak.
Mhm.
People, how they yik-yak. And he said to me, learn to understand what comes down from heaven is first peaceable and pure and easy to be entreated.
Mhm.
And that will give you all the guidance you need.
That's good.
From people, even in your own mind.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it's not the people that we really should fear. It's that we allow the people to, wedge a little crack and a little seed of doubt, a little germ, even a little smaller than the Kovac germ, to get in our brain.
There's times people, though, in terms of like Job, he had friends.
He did.
Read Job. He had 3 friends.
He had what we call friends.
And they became a religious opposition
Yes,
to his own good.
that's right. And his wife.
But the thing
Same
is,
thing.
sometimes people act as
Mhm.
maybe friend or maybe religious type, and they're saying things that are contrary
Yes.
to what's in the word.
And if we don't know our word, if you do not know your word, if you do not, and I'm not saying you have to know every single passage in the Bible, but we got to know enough to grab a hold of the big truths that where we can go and search them out and find out what God's will is and what He says, not what other. Like I said, Job didn't have all the books in the Bible at that point. He had to just hear from God, and yeah, because the wife was no help, the friends were no help, probably, and the circumstances were no help. Here he had hurricanes and the whole 9 yards, and so his health was no help. None of it. He felt like he was forsaken on all sides. But I think it was his nature of who God was at that point that saved him. That he based that his belief on is like, my God's good. And I'm just going to keep believing that no matter what everybody else says.
It's an interesting study.
Yeah. It is. All right.
Wow.
Okay. So, now y'all caught a thought.
Yeah, we did.
I have a eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
So, your homework is go home and get you a stronghold thought.
Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Think about what you're thinking.
There you go.
Well, something you can always stand on, no matter what, There you
Well, I
go.
have a thought now that's I'm finding it's very, very good. And I'll just share. Can I share?
Mhm. Sure.
In the infantry, when you have a platoon and you're in combat, you have a point. You have a guy that's dedicated to be out front, and that person's entire job is to look for tripwires, anything that could come up
Right.
that's going to be part of the enemy. It may not even be the enemy be around, but he's looking for anything. I mean, it's constantly looking, it's constantly aware. And there's also a rear guard, and he's doing the opposite. He's not looking forward, he's looking backwards. There's also a left guard, and there's also a right guard. So in the rest of the platoon, they may be carrying heavy stuff or, whatever. But the Lord's been telling me, I am your point. I am the point. I am your rear guard. I am your left guard.
Yep.
But when I think of that, I think, well, I am absolutely okay. I'm safe. Because he's going before me. He's doing everything that I may not be looking at or seeing or hearing. And he's also my rear guard, where I don't know who's coming up behind me. So,
Yep.
he's on.
There you go.
So he's, he can do it.
We just have to get that in our spirit. But yeah,
Yeah, but it's scriptural too. If you can
It is.
scriptures that.
Yeah, we sing it in the blessing. It is good.
That's my point. I like
there
it.
you go. There we go.
We get the point. Yeah.
This is a good point.
Yeah,
All right.
we did it.
There you go. So everybody gets to go home early today and eat, or whatever you want to do, or not eat, or whatever. Take a nap. Oh. You know, what do they say, that if you can just go to, if you go and hear a talk and you can just take away like 2 points,
That's
it's
right.
a successful
Remember
talk.
The basic reality
Mhm.
of what was said.
You caught a thought.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. That's the way my life was changed. I take
Just-
single thoughts away from things that people have
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah. Most of the time you can't, your body, your mind can't grab hold of many more than that. Just a couple, 3 maybe, that really grab hold of you. So there you go. All right.